Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. I am Dave with Nelson Creek Farms, and we're going to do our midweek video today on homesteading and prepping tips. But I got a few chores I got to do first, like move that sprinkler out of the orchard, put it somewhere else. So hang tight, we'll get with today's show. Now, in keeping with the theme that we've had going on for the last two videos on, which started out as letting y'all know that incandescent light bulbs are going to be gone, which they are, as of the filming of this, which is, what, the 4th of August? Anyway, yeah, incandescent bulbs are gone, heat lamps still on the shelf, so they must be a specialty bulb. But we're going to look at alternative lighting sources today. Now, what I mean by alternative lighting methods, we're going to go back to the old tried and true oil lamp tonight. Yes, we are. So that's what we're going to cover tonight, some of its fuels and uses. So let's get right into it. Now, we're all familiar with these little bottles of red lamp oil. These little bottles of lamp oil have been around for years, usually in a color like blue, red, green, whatever, and maybe even with some scent added to it from essential oils or whatever. So yeah, we're all familiar with these little bottles, and they are still available, although they probably look a little different in today's world. Now, what we're going to cover tonight is going to be the two most common types of fuels used in oil lamps. One of them is the old tried and true kerosene, and the other is paraffin lamp oil, like what's in those little red, green, blue, whatever clear bottles of fluid. Now, I'm talking about the color of the fluid. The bottles are usually clear or brown. We'll cover some of these first, and we'll move on. And then I'm going to give you an alternative fuel source for your kerosene or oil lamps. Kerosene, as I just mentioned, is a flammable liquid. We're all probably fairly familiar with it. It's been used and around the longest as fuel to be used, a oil-based fuel for oil lamps. Now, paraffin oils came out about the same time, just about 5-6 years later. Now, kerosene was first developed in 1853 when a scientist was trying to get asphalt, like in the road, the asphaltic properties out of crude oil by using heat and distilling and what we called it a cracking tower, where the different densities of product are layered, with the heaviest being at the bottom and the lightest being at the top. Okay, that's a separator type thing, if you will. Centrifuge, only it doesn't spin, it just gravity did it. And then the difference in the paraffin is that it is actually made from cooking or heating coal that had some oil properties to it. So yeah, paraffin oil is more refined than kerosene. It has less impurities. This is more suitable for use in the home over kerosene for several reasons. Keeping in mind they're both kind of a hydrocarbon product, very similar in nature. They both put out monoxides and other bad things that we don't want to be breathing. But because the paraffinic oil is more refined, it is cleaner and safer to use in the house from an inhalation standpoint over kerosene. Kerosene's great for outdoors, that sort of thing. I use kerosene here in the house for my own use, but it's limited use, and this old farmhouse is so drafty, any buildup of fumes drifts out through a wall, window, or door, or some other crack in a wall. Now, as I mentioned, odor is an issue. Kerosene has a strong, more petroleum type smell to it when it's both in its liquid form and being burnt over the paraffinic oils, which burn cleaner. Now, burn time. Being a more refined product, the paraffinic oil or paraffin oil will actually burn longer, and your wick will stay cleaner and more usable for a longer period of time, meaning that it won't build up with the little burnt crusties on the top of it. Kind of like when you're frying a steak or something, you get the little crusty edge. Your lamp wick will get the same way from burning impurities in the fuel. Usually, lamp oil or the paraffin oil, like what we showed you that was dyed red and in that little clear plastic bottle a second ago, those are usually available in an 8-ounce bottle all the way up to 55-gallon drums. Yeah, you heard right. The little bottles run anywhere from $8 to $12. 32-ounce bottles run $12 to $15 in some places. Gallon jugs of actual clean heat kerosene can run $18, $20. 2.5 gallon jug is what I buy of clean heat kerosene. That's what I use in my lamps. That's what's used in space heaters in homes and that sort of thing. I bought it at $27, $28 for a 2.5 gallon jug. Now they're running about $35 or so at the local box stores. The 55-gallon barrels of paraffin-based lamp oil, $1,000, easy. Now, the kerosene, you can buy that anywhere from, like I said, in a 32-ounce bottle all the way up to bulk tank deliveries, which you probably don't want, from local oil companies that sell fuels and oils and that sort of thing. Let's talk about wicks for a minute, okay? This is a standard 10-foot roll of a 3/4 inch cotton wick. You can buy these online just about anywhere, Amazon, eBay. You can even find it usually sometimes in your local sporting goods stores and hardware stores and whatnot. So let me get this around here where I can work with all of this here. Okay, now on your wicks, and it really needs to be a good cotton wick, but what you need to do is get rid of any fuzzies up on the end where it's frayed and that sort of thing. See like how that is? So what I always like to do is cut them off straight and square across the top. Now, a lot of people, that's as far as they go on making the wicks for their lamps. The trouble is, and I will illustrate it here on this back of this envelope, because I'm high tech, I'm real thrifty. Anyway, you have your 3/4 inch wick, right? These corners tend to make a flame that looks like Batman's head. Yeah, you get oftentimes enough airflow up the sides. If the wick isn't properly sized for the collar, the piece that it comes up through in the oil lamp part, so you're going to have these points. Points are bad. I don't care who you are, points are bad. They will make soot and smoke before anything else will. Yeah, you'll have 2 streaks of smoke coming up through your chimney off of this design. So some people do this number. They, pardon the drawing, it's not great, but yeah, so they'll make it like a 45-degree angle point, or a rooftop, okay? That's what they call a point top. That makes one right up the middle if you crank it up too high to get the light out of it. The flat one, if you can keep away from having these Batman ears, makes a huge amount of light because the flame is very wide and it's bright. So to get the best of both of those worlds, what you do, or at least what I've seen other people do, and all the old timers that I grew up with that were using oil lamps in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s out on the ranch land where there is no electricity, they would often do the rounded top, or I'd call it like a fingernail. You just kind of round like the top of your finger. Okay, and if it's real shallow, that eliminates the Batman points off of the ends. Plus, it gives you a nearly flat top flame with maybe a hint of height in the middle. That seems to give you the most usable light, this style of cut here. This, we'll call it the round top or whatever. And yeah, it has the least amount of sooting depending on how high up you go. Of course, it will soot and smoke, but it'll get you the most amount of light before that happens. So let's get on with doing that cut to this piece of 3/4 inch. This is just plain cotton lamp wick. What you look for is about 2 places. There's one here, one right there, and one right there, where the weave goes up and down. You know how weave is like this with through it. Yes, we'll go down to the second one. You won't be able to see it because of the shadow. I'm doing this at night, folks, because I'm not home during the days. And I'm kind of out of practice on doing this, and I need to do all my lamps before winter sets in, and winter is coming. I can guarantee you that. Okay, I'm doing this, reaching around a post here for the camera to sit on. There we go, something kind of like that. Yeah, see how that's rounded on the top? That'll give you the best light without getting into smoking. The other thing you got to do is make sure you don't have any little fuzzies. So you want to go along and trim up the edges. And this pair of scissors I'm using is a pair of, I don't know what they are, Fiskars or whatever, Comfort Cuts. These are something sold at a clothing dealer or cloth dealer, so they're really super sharp, and that's what you're definitely going to want to use. Just a pair of household scissors, they aren't going to be sharp enough, so make sure you go to a clothing store and you get the sharpest pair of scissors you can get your hands on to trim your wicks with. Because the more perfect that is, the better your flame is going to be with less sooting. So yeah, that right there, that's what you're going to want to be looking for, at least in my experience. Other opinions will vary and greatly. That trimming technique also works incredibly well on the little round wicks that are used in, say, like some of the little dainty bedroom lights, that sort of thing, or in the lamps that use the next form of lamp oil that we're going to talk about. Now, those little round wicks bring us to the next form of lamp oil that is not a hydrocarbon-based type oil. It's organic. It is sustainable. Yeah, so it's eco-friendly. And it's been around for centuries. It is the plain old olive oil. Now, there are several advantages to the olive oil. One is it's organic. 2, it's readily available at any of your grocery stores. You don't have to buy the extra virgin olive oil. In fact, the cheap stuff actually works really well. And it isn't as dangerous as the hydrocarbon-based oils of paraffin or kerosene, if you will. In fact, if the flame actually drops down into the liquid olive oil, it'll snuff the flame out. So they're a lot safer to use in homes with kids, pets, where an animal could get up on a shelf and knock the lamp over, that sort of thing. Chances are it's going to put out the fire. Now, another advantage olive oil has over the other 2 types of oil for your oil lamp is that you can actually add essential oils to the olive oil to help mask the smell of the olive oil, unless you don't mind a slight aroma of the burning olive oil. So yeah, there's things you can do with that, and to get mix ratios right or what works or what doesn't work, I'm going to leave that up to you to do your own research on Google or wherever you'd like to look it up. Now we're going to wrap this up here with what I've showed you. There's several key things you need to take away from this. 1, make sure you are using a 100% cotton wick, whether it's one of the little round ones, the flat ones, however wide, 100% cotton. 2, make sure your wick fits that collar. You can put a 3/8 inch wide wick into a 3/4 inch collar. It'll go up and down in there, it'll go cockeyed and crooked. But the problem is, air will get around the sides of that wick because it's too narrow for that oval collar that it goes up through. That's where you get the Batman point. because the heat from the flame will draw air up the sides instead of through it and give you those two little points. Third, regardless of what type of fuel you use, you need to keep on top of the wick. That is the most important maintenance thing out there. They start getting black crusties on the top of the wick where you trim it and cut it and shape it. Time to trim it and cut it and shape it again. And fourth, regardless what type of fuel you use, remember to keep your lamp somewhere safe when it's lit so that an animal or a child or somebody tossing a ball or whatever in the house isn't going to hit it, knock it over, and cause a fire when you're using it. So please, folks, be careful out there and keep an eye on these things because they can be a problem, even with the olive oil. Now, I've not personally used any of the olive oil in my own home. I'm going to give it a try in one of my lamps. I can't imagine it smelling bad. It's going to probably end up smelling like I'm cooking something, actually, which that's not really a bad thing. Anyway, I hope this helps you. And as always, I'm Farmer Dave, wishing you well. You all be careful out there. Don't forget to catch up with us again. We'll have another video coming out right quick of some of the things going on here at the farm. So stay tuned, stay safe, and don't forget right down there to subscribe. Thank you, and we'll catch up with you later. Bye-bye for now.